What's up, everybody? India's had his last adventure once again with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and before we get into the movie, I'm going to let you know this will be a full spoiler review. If you've yet to see the movie and don't want to be spoiled, leave a like on the video or subscribe to the channel so you can make your way back once you've checked it out. Otherwise, let's get into the movie. James Mangold delivered a really fun Indiana Jones movie. I surely had my worries about a non-Spielberg Lucas indie movie, but if that's you, put your worries away. I can say with absolute confidence that this is my personal third favorite Indiana Jones movie. For context, my old rankings from favorite to least favorite were Temple of Doom, Raiders, Last Crusade, and Crystal Skull. It was much more like the first two than the latter two, which for me was a great thing. Mangold not only brings a fresh take on the adventures, but taps into the magic that Spielberg and Lucas brought, combined with yet another phenomenal score from the great John Williams. With all that being said, I do want to dive into some of the specifics on the movie, like Indy, Helena and Teddy, the villains, and of course, the legacy of these movies. Let's start with Helena and Teddy. I saw a lot of people blowing their gaskets over Helena before they even saw the movie, and while she's not my personal favorite female indie partner, she certainly falls right in line with the rest of them. Phoebe Waller-Bridge delivers a good performance as the goddaughter who's fallen in with the wrong crowd, and I thought the way they introduced her character was perfect for an Indiana Jones movie. It was pretty funny watching her answer all of Indy's questions and how he just lit up that a student was actually paying attention to him. Not to get too off track, but it felt like the old man Indy's version of the girl writing "Love You" on her eyelids in Raiders. It gave him that pause and then that spark. Obviously not in that way, it's his goddaughter, but that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about when I say Mangold nailed the Spielberg feel. Back to Phoebe though, she was a great fit next to Harrison as she has a lot of natural chemistry with him and truly makes you believe she's known this man her whole life. Now her partner in crime Teddy, portrayed by Ethan Isidore, was great. He reminded me a lot of Short Round, but obviously a little older and not as good, but that's no knock on him, okay? Shorty is my second favorite Indiana Jones character behind the man himself, Indy. Now, he certainly doesn't have as much to do as Shorty, and it's less fantastical overall, but there's a hilarious scene where he swims for the first time, but it's only so funny because right before he does this, he handcuffs the mastodon of a man that's a villain and assumingly drowns him, and I just immediately thought of Shorty doing this. And with that, we might as well jump into the villains of this movie. The first one isn't exactly a villain in the evil sense, but she was an antagonist to Indy in the beginning. That being Mason, portrayed by Shawnette Renee Wilson. If you've seen Austin Powers, I'd hope you know why I loved her so much, but if you haven't, after you're done with this video, go watch Austin Powers Goldmember, or just look up clips of Foxy Cleopatra on YouTube, because this was exactly who she reminded me of, and unfortunately, she does meet her demise rather early on in the movie, but she's great while she's on screen. Then there's a little giant I was talking about earlier. Here he is in Black Widow, portrayed by Olivier Richards. I hope I said that right. He's giant, he's terrifying. I hope I said his name right. Who doesn't have many lines in the movie, but is just jaw-droppingly massive. In real life, he's a bodybuilder and he's a whopping 7 feet 2 inches and weighs over 300 pounds. It's absolutely preposterous. That's all I can even say about him. Like, his physical status just left me speechless the entire movie. With him came Clayburgh, portrayed by Boyd Holbrook, who I'm kind of assuming is a white supremacist from Alabama based on the context of the movie. While I'm sure Boyd isn't that in reality, he gives a damn convincing performance to that evil, going so far as dressing like a Nazi in the third act. He did so following my second favorite character in the movie, Dr. Valere, portrayed by Mads Mikkelsen, and Mads is amazing as always, both in the past and in the present, but his character is a really interesting take on a Nazi. He has a great line to a World War II vet early on when he says, "You didn't win the war, Hitler lost it." And that's really kind of his origin per se in the movie, and I thought it was fascinating. He wants to use the dial that Archimedes invented to go back to 1939 and kill Hitler because he thinks he can do better and win the Germans the war. This plan obviously fails as all indie villains' plans do, but he's amazing regardless, and even if he wasn't, it's always fun watching Harrison Ford punch Nazis. Now, before we get into Ford's last performance as Indy, I do want to address the use of legacy in this movie. Not just John Williams' music, but some of the returning characters as well. We of course had John Rhys Davies return to his role of Sala in this one, and unfortunately he doesn't join Indy for the adventure. As always though, he gets Indy where he needs to be for the adventure. He comes in at the end as well to give Indy and another legacy character, who we'll talk about in just a second, some alone time. It was great to see Sala back, and I'm glad they gave him just a couple more scenes in this movie. Then, it's not an Indiana Jones movie without a great score from John Williams, which he delivers here in this one. Some people were saying he just cashed it in for the last time, but that is absolutely not the case. And speaking of heart, what's a send-off for Indiana Jones without the return of Marion? Karen Allen returns for just one scene in the end of the movie, the one I was talking about with Sala, as they recreate the "Where Doesn't It Hurt" scene from Raiders, and a beautiful final scene of the movie. So with all those old geezers out of the way, I'm just kidding. Let's talk about the man himself, Indianapolis Jones. If you get that reference, you're a great person. Anyway, much like Williams, people claimed Harrison would just cash it in for this movie, but he does no such thing as he actually embraces that kind of grumpy old man persona he has into the character. But we start with the younger Indy, who I do want to acknowledge both Mike Massa and Anthony and Gruber, who are credited with being the two doubles for on-set reference in those scenes. Anyway, the de-aging tech is just the best in this movie, and we've had some good, some not so good, but here, it was used for almost a half hour, and to me, I was watching as 35-year-old Indiana Jones for the opening sequence. And as I said earlier, it's always just fun watching Harrison Ford as Indianapolis Jones hit Nazis, and I think that's an undeniable fact. Other than hitting Nazis, though, we meet Toby Jones as Basil Shaw, father of Helena Shaw, and those two had great chemistry. He's up there with Shorty for sidekicks of Indy just off the 30 minutes or so of screen time from Toby. A lot of that is because of his performance and my love for Toby from Jurassic World and Captain America amongst many other movies, so I was ecstatic to see him in this one. Back in the present though, there's some great scenes with Indy out on a boat, one while he's diving, and one while he's back on the boat. The first had to do with eels and his fear of snakes, which Harrison did not miss a beat bringing back, which was just hilarious. Then back on the boat, there's a not so funny scene where Harrison delivers an emotional performance as Antonio Banderas' Ronaldo, who we're told is an old friend of Indy's, gets shot and dies. Maybe I need to watch more of his work, but I'm not used to this type of emotional performance from Ford, so it was totally pleasing to see. Not only does he have those true moments, but he delivers an inspired performance in the third act when he meets Archimedes and just wants to stay in 214 BC as he witnesses the siege of Syracuse. He's like a little kid, or like me watching any indie movie, as he's just in awe, and it really felt like this was Harrison just embracing his love for this character. I should mention also, he is bleeding out during this scene and he kind of just wants to die there, but Helena doesn't let him. She punches him and brings him back to the present where we get the finale. Before that, though, I know he comes off as a grump in interviews, but that's just really his personality he's always had that seems way worse now because he's not that energetic 35-year-old he used to be. But that doesn't matter here because, as I've said, he gives a hell of a performance, and what he demands is his final outing as Indy. The movie ends perfectly, in my opinion, with the scene between him and Marion obviously recreating the Where Doesn't It Hurt scene from Raiders, as I was saying earlier, and Salva and Helena get the kids out of the room. Who knows what goes on during that? We don't see it though. The final shot is Indy's hat hanging on the clothesline, and as it closes in on it, Indy's hand grabs it. Obviously, the rumors Doomcock made were not true. Phoebe Waller-Bridge does not take over, and the movie ends. As I said at the beginning, I was incredibly worried about this movie, as while Crystal Skull is just as fun and I think overhated, it definitely wasn't as good as the first three. That being said, this one delivers and left me very pleased with a huge smile on my face and even a tear in my eye with the scene between Indy and Marion. But as always, I want to know what you guys thought about this movie, so let me know down in the comments below, and let me know if you'll rewatch it in theaters too. If you enjoyed this breakdown, I'd appreciate it if you left a like on the video and subscribe to the channel as I bring you all the nerdy news, rumors, theories, and reviews in one place. With all that being said, thank you for checking out my review of Indianapolis Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I hope to see you back in the Nerdverse in the future, and most of all, make sure you have a great day.